The Motivate podcast show. I am your host, Rich Wall Street Williams. And man, this is a different edition. This is the late night edition of the Motivate podcast show. And the Motivate podcast show, we always say less, but we definitely want to believe for more. Listen, I've been having some great conversation as it relates to having progress and having the proper performance. And I said a few days ago on an earlier broadcast that proper preparation for practice leads to having productive performance at game time. Proper preparation for practice, it sets the stage to have productive performance when it's game time. Now, game times can mean different things to different people. Game time can mean a change in a relationship. Game time can mean on a job, accomplishments of a goal, sales, etc. So whatever game time is, understand this, friend, that where our success happens off the field and not on the field. I mean, think about this. If there was a wind, if there was a hurricane coming your way, when's the best time to board the windows, to board the doors, and prepare for the hurricane? During the storm or before the storm? The obvious answer is before the storm, right? So from when we look at the weather or storm in that particular example, we understand and we clearly know that it is extremely challenging and difficult to start boarding your windows, start covering your doors during a 150-mile-an-hour wind. No, you do it before. You prepare before. And that's what I'm talking about when I talk about practice being a prophecy of the way that our performance is a prophecy of the way that we practice. So the focus, the emphasis is not on the results, but on the preparation, the practice, and the process. Not on the results, but on the preparation, the practice, right, and the process. So how do we do this? So I understand this, that progress simply means that we're making forward movement. Some movement is better than no movement at all. Some movement is better than no movement at all, friend. So listen, you got to be able to take your goals and put them into bite-sized pieces or steps. Take the macro and break it down to the micro. Take the big thing and break it down to something that you and I could do every single day that's going to put us where we need to be. So you got to be positive about it when you're looking at this small movement that's being small movement being better than having no movement at all. And you think about this. If you took a test, you got a B, and then you got another test, you got a B plus. You took a test again, and you got a B plus. That's progress. Doesn't seem like much of a separation from a B to a B plus, but understand that the B plus is at a little higher level than it is to getting a B, right? So it's this understanding of practice. So let me ask you this. What do you think is the number one reason why people fail to practice? What do you think the number one reason is? Come on, put it in the chat. What do you think the number one reason that people fail to practice? What's the number one reason? You know what the number one reason is, friend? The number one reason for the failure practice is because people don't commit to the idea and purpose of practice. That's the number one reason for failure. In my book, in my perspective, the number one reason that people fail is they don't understand the power and the purpose of practice. Practice is where you and I can determine the right course of action in advance. Practice is where you and I can run through different scenarios. What if cases? What if this happened? Here's how. You know, when pilots are training and going through preparation to get their license, they fly in what's referred to as a flight simulator. And in that flight simulator, they have an opportunity to experience and recreate almost virtually any challenge a pilot may face when flying, what he or she may face when flying. It's the flight simulator. So in the flight simulator or during the practice flight, the pilot has an opportunity to make mistakes and not be life-threatening. The pilot gets an opportunity to rehearse different scenarios, different situations. What happens if engine 1 and 2 goes out? What happens if I lose the rudder or the flaps, right? So that flight simulator is the pilot's practice. And so proper preparation for practice leads to them having productive performance. You know, I was watching a guy talk about crashes a few months ago. He's a pilot himself, and he said because of the instruments and how planes are made today. Planes can literally, and I'm just taking his word for this because I am not an expert on flying. He said planes with the technology and computer and for planes that a plane can take off and land by itself. So they get up high enough, and he said they go on autopilot. And so the guy was saying that there was a number of incidents, flight incidents, and one of the main reasons for flight incidents, crashes, errors, etc., was because the pilot relied on autopilot. And if autopilot didn't function, the pilot didn't have the necessary skill set to fly the plane. So I've been focusing in on this practice, man, because to understand this, friend, you have to get better on the inside before you get bigger on the outside. You got to get better on the inside. You got to get better on the inside. You got to start asking yourself questions like, what do I want? Why do I want it? How do I get it? Right? Questions like, how do people see me? How do I want to be seen? Right? What do I have to say and do to be seen as a person that I desire to be seen as? And that's practicing. See, in my mind, I got to begin to paint the picture. I have to get the information. Education plus application makes all the difference in the world. That's my practice. What you do when you get up in the morning, you go to the gym, you have your time of prayer, meditation. See, that's your time of practice. And then you go into the workforce, and then you step into your day. Does that make sense? But our performance in life is a prophecy of the way that we practice in life. Our performance in life is a prophecy of the way that we practice in life. Hey, friend, I'm Rich Wall Street Williams here from the Motivate podcast. And the Motivate podcast show, we always say less, but we definitely want to believe for more. Hey, do me a favor, man. Subscribe to the channel. And after you subscribe, hit that little bell. I don't know if it's here or there or up there. I don't know what device you're watching on, but subscribe and then hit that bell. That bell has a notification. That way, whenever we post new content, you will always get that information. Motivate podcast show, we say less, but we definitely believe for more. Let's get it.